Hey everyone, I'm Pete Dalliday. Welcome to another edition of Hometown PTBO, brought to you by TransCanada Nissan. Today we're talking to lacrosse legend Tracey Kelusky. And Tracey, thanks for joining us. First of all, tell us, you were born right here in Peterborough, right? Right in the South End?
South End boy, down in Orpington Road. Actually, I think I was born on Patterson Street. I was 3 years old, I think, when we moved to Orpington, and Orpington was home until basically I left for college, and the odd time I'd come back, obviously, and visit mom and dad on Orpington Road in the South End. But good old South End boy from Peterborough, Ontario.
Now, I know your dad, your late father, Reg, worked at Coke and was a hard worker. And I didn't know this until recently, but did your mom work at the Kenner cafeteria? Is that right?
She was a Kenner Calf lady, yep. Free cookies, which was great. Lots of fries and gravy. But mom was at the Kenner cafeteria, and dad was he was a lifer at Coca-Cola in the plant here in the south of Peterborough as well. And yeah, that's mom and dad are both actually from the Bancroft area.
Okay.
And they migrated this way after, to find work and settled in Peterborough, Ontario. Dad's one of six, mom was one of 11, but farmers, right?
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
then up north in Bancroft, dad was from, the other side, like Maynooth, and mom was from this side of Bancroft, Cardiff, and I think both were raised on a farm. And, I remember from a young age, slugging wood. We'd go up to Bancroft every weekend. They'd visit their brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles, and from a young age, having to carry, the loads of wood out of the back of the truck with dad, and that was something that certainly was instilled at me with me at a young age, for sure.
Is that one of the reasons why you got into lacrosse a little later? Like in the summers, were you heading north instead of saying heading south with the lacrosse kids?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I played soccer, and I know, mutual acquaintance with my dad's was John Grant Sr. I was hanging out with Junior a little bit at the time, but I wasn't in the lacrosse circle. I didn't start playing until 11, 12. And primarily speaking, again, my dad didn't want to give up his weekends. It was like they're going back north to Bancroft, and we're going to the cottage, we're going dirt biking and hanging out at the farm. But for me, it was again, we played hockey together with Junior and some of those guys. But then Senior finally was like, enough's enough. Let's get him out playing lacrosse, and grew up playing in the house league, PMLA house league system, and playing with some great players like John Grant Jr. and Grillsy, Tully. Those guys had all played a lot more before me. So playing with those guys was pretty awesome.
Have you ever thought about whether you would have been even better than you were, or do you think you were as good as you were because you had played a different sport? You had other skills.
Well, I think it's important. I still preach to, I run a company now called Evolve Lacrosse, but I preach to all my kids, the more you can play, other sports. Again, I played competitive hockey, of course, through the Peterborough Hockey Association. I played soccer. I was a windmill pitcher, coming from Bancroft. All my uncles were they played windmill, and so I got into that whole baseball scene as well. But I think it's important to play, as many sports as you possibly can. And, certainly there's a lot of parallels with hockey and lacrosse, which it only made sense to, in the off season of hockey, go play lacrosse because of the contact and because of the similarities.
Let's talk about your high school hockey career, though, because you guys had a really good team, OSSA champions down there at Kenner. Tell us about that.
Well, I think everybody chirps us so much. It's like grade 13, grade 14, OAC, whatever. We were. I know I went back for grade 13, or that OAC year, to just again up my grades to try to get into university and kind of bide in time to figure out what I wanted to do post secondary. So a lot of us went back, and we had a great hockey team. We had some guys that had some stints in the OHL that came back and played on our hockey team, and guys that you grew up with, guys you grew up playing with. We had some success. We won OFSA, and it was, for me at the time, that was like the greatest thing, right? And I know even for the city, we hosted OFSA that year, and it was pretty remarkable.
It was pretty good a week, right?
Yeah.
Because it was right here. Talk a little bit about. I mean, you could have settled anywhere, really. I mean, you could have settled down in Calgary if you wanted to because of the successes you had there and all the different cities. But you keep coming back. You wanted to raise your family here in Peterborough. Why is that?
Well, I've always, Peterborough's home, and home is where you lay your head. And of course, I was able to, explore, live in different spots. I lived in Montreal part-time when I played in Montreal. I lived in Columbus. I lived at Hartford when I went to school, and then, spent 8 years in Calgary. But, for us and for my family, it was like when my son Keller was born, this community, the sports, everybody kind of knows everybody within the city of Peterborough. And I just think that, again, I love my upbringing in Peterborough, and I certainly wanted to provide my son a similar, a similar feeling, right? And, my wife and I, we discussed it, and it just made sense to come back, and it was closer for her. My wife's from Connecticut, but it was closer for her to get back, a lot easier for her to get back home as well. So we opted to move back to beautiful Peterborough, Ontario. The East City Cafe is awesome, but Jimmy's down. I know it's called Thurston's, but I call it I call it Jimmy's. I think everybody calls it Jimmy's. You want to go down there, but it's again, you grow up in a community, and being able to play on a sports team in the community, and you get to know so many people. You want to go out and experience all of it, because we have so many awesome restaurants, awesome spots to go to have a sociable, I guess.
Yeah.
It's Peterborough's Peterborough.
You mentioned John Grant Sr. earlier, and I think we've all been there. Like, he always gave you the gears about soccer. He gave me the gears for a while about baseball, and eventually we just caved in and got back into lacrosse or whatever. So how big of a factor was he? Would you even be sitting here right now talking to me if it wasn't for Senior?
We
wouldn't be talking about lacrosse.
We wouldn't be talking. No, we wouldn't be talking. Yeah, definitely not. And Senior was, he was certainly passionate about the game. And again, that was one of the things for me was, again, I didn't know a ton about lacrosse. And a story that always sticks with me is Senior, and I think he told my dad, he's like, people don't get it. I go and play in Philadelphia in front of a sold-out crowd of 19,000 fans. And he's like, on Monday morning, I'm delivering Coke down in Norwood to some store that they have no idea.
Yeah.
Right? But Senior was, he was as passionate as the next guy about lacrosse, if not more. And, yeah, he was, for me, I've said it before and I'll say it again, he was like a second father to me, right? Like, he took me under his wing. It didn't hurt, of course, that Junior and I were thick as thieves as well. But, Senior just, again, the jarring back and forth about, your stick and, what the game meant to him and all those things. Yeah, I 100% wouldn't have had the lacrosse career I had without, his guidance and, his parenting, really. The Philadelphia Wings, again, being a kid in Peterborough, I mentioned John Grant Sr., but, Jim Hickey.
Well, look at the guy over your other shoulder up there. Do you recognize him with Muhammad Ali?
Carmi?
Yeah, Carmi Collins.
Carmi Collins, but like all those guys, right? Like all those guys were Peterborough legends, and they were going down and playing with the Philadelphia Wings, and, arguably the Philadelphia Wings is the most storied franchise in NLL history. So, to play for that storied franchise was pretty remarkable, and I chose to wear the number 63 because the year before my father had passed away, suddenly from cancer. So I honored my dad in wearing the number 63. So that jersey is probably one of my favorites, just again for a number of reasons. But yeah.
Yeah, special one for sure. Now you're off to Texas. Tell us about that gig.
Yeah, no, Fort Worth, the fine. I've never been. I've heard everything's better and bigger in Texas, but with COVID, obviously, I haven't been able to get down there. I've certainly got a lot of snippets from, our ownership group, Greg Bibb, and our general manager Bob Hamley, who was the general manager when I played for Team Canada and part of the coaching staff. So some familiarity of knowing some of those guys down there, but. When you retire, you certainly have, you look at what the next chapter brings, and I certainly wanted to get into coaching, and, I coached 6 years in the National Lacrosse League, and it's like I wanted my own team. I wanted to be a head coach. I certainly had the opportunity to learn from some really good ones, with Paul Day being another Peterborough guy who's had, probably, arguably, again, the most success in our league. So, it was time that I wanted to again explore some options to be a head coach, and grateful for the opportunity to be the head coach, and be the inaugural or the first coach that's going to lead the Panther City Lacrosse Club into the 2021-22 season for the National Lacrosse League.
Yeah, it's exciting. So, do they have a pair of boots waiting for you down there? Or?
I think I got my old cowboy boots and my old cowboy hats from my old Calgary days. So I know I had put on that cowboy hat, making sure it still fits, but. It's good.
Well, congratulations on that, and then all your success on the floor. Obviously, you're a Hall of Famer, and I think you're going to go on to a great coaching career now too. All starting down there in Texas. So best of luck with that, and we'll see you around, man. Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. Pleasure.
Hometown PTBO with Pete Dalliday, presented by Trans Canada Nissan.